What's up? It's David, the emotional optimization coach, and today we're going to be talking about emotional momentum. So, the topics we're going to cover: what is emotional momentum? Realizing you've already built emotional momentum, recognizing and understanding how emotional momentum shows up in your life. Then we're going to go into catch and rewire. It's a quick little technique whenever you notice yourself in a particular habit or pattern. We'll get into that here in a moment. And also recognizing that repetition equals momentum. Realizing small changes over time are what build that emotional momentum. So emotional momentum, what is it? If you think about emotions as a habit, and momentum is something that we build up. So if you imagine a vehicle, right? Getting into a car, you put it in drive, you start to put your foot on the gas, and you start to go. Well, starting to go is emotional traction. Your wheels are getting a grip on the road. And emotional momentum is what happens when that grip continues to repeat over time on the road. So you gain traction, or you get traction, you start with traction, and then over time you build up momentum. Momentum heads you in a particular direction that you're going into, which is emotional trajectory. You've got a direction you're headed. That's your GPS, right? If you want to get there, you got to go in that direction, and you have to experience momentum, build up momentum over time. After you have gained traction, start with traction, gain momentum with a trajectory, you headed where you want it. Okay. So if you are going into a direction that you don't want to be going in, and your car keeps going in that direction, you're going to head somewhere that you don't want to go. Okay. But these are things that we're doing all the time. So what happens is you've got this emotional habit that has already gained traction, and it's built up momentum over time that heads you in a direction that you don't necessarily want to go in, which leads to the emotions you don't want to be experiencing. So let's get into your current emotional momentum and realizing where are you headed. And that gets a little bit more into emotional trajectory, but you've already experienced emotions over time when something happens. Okay. So when something happens is the external event that happens to you, and your reaction to that or response to that is based on your internal emotional habit. So if you have a habit of being stressed, being anxious, being nervous, over time, you have built up an emotional momentum that heads you in a particular direction to be stressed, anxious, overwhelmed, whatever those emotions are. If you want to make a change, you have to slow down the old momentum. You have to slow down the old habit until you gain traction headed in a different direction, which is trajectory. Okay. So if you want a different outcome, if you want to feel differently, you got to slow down the old emotions, make them conscious, work through the underlying button that is being pushed whenever you have an external event. It pushes a button, so you work on the button. That is the greatest power that you can have, is to work on the button itself whenever you find yourself triggered, whenever you find yourself experiencing an emotion that you don't want to be experiencing. So look at the emotion, look underneath it, what is being triggered, what am I reacting to? Because it's not necessarily the current situation. More often than not, sometimes it is, but most often it's something from your past that has been unresolved that is making you feel some kind of way. So that's a little bit more on your current emotional momentum, where you're headed. And if that's stress, if that's anxiety, whatever the negative feeling is, do you want to keep feeling it? If you don't want to keep feeling it, then you want to make a change. How do you make a change? Slow things down, make them conscious, look at what's underneath it, and then process through that and head yourself in a different direction. So how can you tell how fast you're going? How fast is that emotional momentum? So how can you recognize your emotional momentum? How fast are you? How quick are you to react? Are you reactionary or are you responsive? Are you reacting to something, which comes from fear, typically some type of fear underneath, deep in your subconscious mind, a fear of a past pain repeating? Okay, that's usually what it is. So if you've got something that happens, and before you can even think about it, you feel yourself cringing, you feel yourself clenching up, you feel yourself reacting, depending on how fast it is, how fast that reaction happens, that's how fast your old momentum is going. Okay, you are building this, or you have over time built this reaction. It's not something that just happens overnight. Somebody says something bad to you and you're like, oh no, I'm the worst person in the world. If you hadn't built up that momentum, you wouldn't be thinking that way. Okay. If you didn't already have a habit, have trained yourself, or somebody trained you and then you just picked it up along the way and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm going to keep this training going, even though it may not be good for you. But that's what you do. We take other people's beliefs about us because in the wild, other people tell us how to survive because they've survived. So as a little baby cub, you pick up on these other grown bears or whatever, lions, whatever, and they survived. So you should listen to them if you want to survive. Okay. So we do that. And then over time, we start going out in the world and we're like, okay, what was I taught? I was taught to keep my head down, to never speak up. Okay. To be a good little boy or little girl, right? Don't say anything. Don't speak up. Don't stand up for yourself. Just stay quiet, keep it in, keep going. Okay. That kept you safe, or so you thought. Okay. But over time, you create desires, different ways that you want to experience the world, different ways that you want to feel. And if you don't have the training or the education or the habit of doing it over time, the momentum in that direction, then you've got to build it from scratch. You've got to start with a traction that you are building in a new direction to build up that momentum over time, which is a habit, and set the trajectory in the way that you want to go, the way that you want to feel, the life that you want to experience. So what's happening in your mind? What's happening in your mind is you're having this reaction, and then you're having this trigger. So a trigger event, something that happens to you, and then you are reacting, okay? Or you are responding. The difference between reaction and responding is reaction is it happens before you really think about it. Responding is you have full clarity. Oh, the other thing with reacting is you're go into fight or flight, some level of fight or flight. Your brain is responding some kind of way to keep you alive, to protect you from pain. So it shuts down your higher brain functions that allow you to respond. Instead, you're reacting. You're in a reactionary state. That reaction could be stress. It could be overwhelm. It could be burnout. That reaction could be people pleasing. The reaction could be all of these habits that you've created over time to keep you safe. Okay. So the technique is to catch and rewire the reaction, to turn it into a response, to give yourself the freedom to respond to something from your higher brain functions, right? Your prefrontal cortex, all that good stuff. In order to do that, you need to catch the old habit and rewire it. Okay. You do that enough over time and you have repetition. Repetition builds up momentum. So if you want to build up momentum in a new direction, you have to repeat catching the old, slowing it down, and gaining traction in the new direction. So you catch and rewire. Catch the old feeling, catch the old reaction. Like, I'm stressed. Oh no, I'm stressed. What am I stressed about? Okay, well, what does stress mean to me? When did I originally feel this feeling? When did I first feel this feeling? Okay, I got this belief in my head, this program in my head. When did that first start? So if you're feeling stressed, maybe it's like, I don't have enough resources. Okay, when did I feel like I didn't have enough resources or wasn't able to get what I wanted out of life? Oh, that goes back to when I was like 3 and my mom just left me cry in the crib, or, whatever the story is, right? So you look at that, you catch the story, you catch the reaction, you dive deep into it, you look at it and you go, oh, you make it conscious, you make an effort, and then you rewire so that the next time, so you rewire the story. So if it's 3 years old in the crib and you didn't know when you were going to get fed and you're hungry, you think you're dying. Okay. So the experience is my mom didn't feed me and I thought I was going to die. Okay. Makes sense when you look at it from that perspective, right? From that angle, from that lens. So you look at it and you go, oh, was I really going to die? No, I wasn't going to die. My mom came in like a half an hour later, whatever. She was sleeping, whatever it is, came in, I got fed. Okay, cool. All is right in the world. Now you go back to that little child who's afraid that they're going to starve to death. Pick them up, hold them, feed them, give them what they need in the moment. This is just a story you're creating in a mind. But imagine the power that just that kind of a story can have on the next moment when you feel like you don't have enough. The next moment when you're a people pleaser. The next moment when you're stressed or anxious or whatever. If you just let those emotions go, you're building the habit. You're enforcing the habit. You're reinforcing the habit that you don't want. So you've got to slow it down. You've got to make it conscious. It doesn't take a lot to do this. It takes consistency. Okay. So slow it down, look at it, bring it into your conscious awareness, rewrite the story, vent the old emotion, rewrite a new story. And then the next time that you get triggered, you're going to notice that that charge, that reaction that you have is less and less and less until over time you build this new direction, this new habit. So you start gaining traction in a new direction headed the way you want. Okay. So that is how to use the power of repetition to build up momentum in the direction you want. Shifting your mindset and creating a new story, realizing small changes over time, build that emotional momentum. So how do you shift your mindset? Look at the old thing that you're reacting to, the old memory, the old moment, the person, situation, or circumstance that reminded you of this current situation. Okay. Go back, vent, release, let go of the old, create something new. And then your mind will start to respond to this new emotional charge instead of the old emotional charge. What are your next steps from here to build better emotional momentum and a more authentic, aligned, and fulfilled life? I've got some free resources. I would love to give them to you. These are things that you can use. These are things that I have created from thousands of my clients since 2004. All the challenges that they've had, I've created some of these resources that you can use. I guarantee they're going to help you. There's some meditations that I've created. Let me know if you want them. You can reach out to me. You can drop a comment. However you want to do that, I'm here. I love helping people. I want to thank you so much for showing up here. I absolutely honor and appreciate that. But most importantly, for showing up to level up your life and your skills and take everything to a whole new level. I appreciate and honor that more than anything. Thank you for hanging out with me, and I'll see you in the next video.